This is Indonesia, a chain of emeralds on the equator, with a unique biodiversity and cultural heritage. But the landscape is changing fast. Recent decades have seen developments that on the one hand have brought about prosperity for many, but on the other, ecological devastation. Greenhouse gas emissions caused by traffic, industry, agriculture, deforestation, and peatland degradation not only make Indonesia a large contributor of greenhouse gases in the world, but also leave Indonesia among the most vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. And so a bridge was created, connecting those who know the science of climate change with those who wield the power in government and can steer the country towards a future of greater sustainability.
I think it is beyond doubt that the most pressing issue today is the threat of climate change. Without being pushed into bigger action, we have initiated several initiatives to combat climate change, and it is well appreciated by the global community.
Indonesia and the United States are two of the world's largest greenhouse gas emitters. So it really matters that we work together to confront this huge challenge to our planet.
Climate change is something very complex and multidimensional. And I believe there is no single ministry or institution can deal or cope with the climate change alone.
We have so many institutions in Indonesia, but institution focus on climate change is not so many. So we need to have a center where the climate change can be a focus.
Established in 2011 under the U.S.-Indonesia Comprehensive Partnership, the Indonesia Climate Change Center, ICCC, brings together scientific communities, international organizations, and Indonesian ministries to encourage the creation of climate change policies that can make a positive contribution to society.
There's two gaps. First, a gap in science. We realize the reality of climate change, but we don't understand what is the real impact at the practical level.
So we have given ICCC the task of trying to bridge the gap between science, numbers, and policy intentions. So intentions becomes real programs.
The Indonesian Climate Change Center is located in downtown Jakarta, where it shares office space with the National Council on Climate Change, DNPI. They not only provide the ICCC with direction and strategy.
When we talk about scientific issues, we always invite ICCC team members to participate because ICCC provides us with the technical backup in case we need it.
The ICCC team manages a total of 4 research programs, also known as clusters. These are Peatland and Peatland Mapping Cluster, Low Emissions Development Strategies, Reporting and Verification, and Climate Resilience. The clusters hold the latest climate change-related data specific to Indonesia. They are the 4 cornerstones of the ICCC strategy. Emissions caused by deforestation and peatland degradation are the largest contributors of greenhouse gases in Indonesia. It is estimated that they amount to as much as 50% of the country's total emissions and 80% of the national emissions reduction target. Facing the peatland issue is a top priority at ICCC. The Peatland Cluster provides scientific analyses in support of policy and action for dealing with greenhouse gas emissions caused by peatland degradation. ICCC's peatland research programs are located in Sumatra and in central Kalimantan, in Katingan, on the island of Borneo. Here, ICCC collaborates with third parties to obtain data that will help formulate a more complete picture of peatland.
The first data which is important for peatland mapping is a pit depth, because with the pit depth then we can estimate which one is the deep pit or which one is the shallow pit. But for doing that for 21 million hectares is impossible. So what we can do is combining between remote sensing to get the accurate data, and we came up with a peatland map.
In September 2013, ICCC completed a milestone project that resulted in the first definition of peatland, along with a detailed peatland map of the area. In addition, ICCC is the host of the annual International Indonesia Peatland Conversation, IIPC, a panel that brings together leading experts from all relevant sectors to raise awareness of peatland degradation and to find solutions to reducing emissions. Human activity is emitting vast amounts of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. A new development paradigm is critical, promoting both economic growth and reduced greenhouse gas emissions. Indonesia and ICCC are among the first to take initiative.
The LETS program is mainly focused on finding the different scenarios that you can create low emission actions, but also have the higher economic impact.
ICCC's recent studies on low emissions development strategies in Indonesia explore new ways of attracting investment into the renewable energy sector. A crop-to-energy feasibility study aims to bring electricity to the remotest parts of the country through private and state funding. Further studies focus on energy independence, promoting a cellulose plant-based biofuel industry. Additional research promoting low emissions development strategies include strengthening academic and scientific institutions and communities, making recommendations for improving industrial practices, and exploring alternative energy sources to help reduce Indonesia's dependency on fossil fuels.
The MRV cluster is really a part of the mechanics to assess how we seize the impacts as well as track the performance on any action in dealing with the climate change.
The water logger in central Kalimantan provides ICCC with real-time information on the current water levels in the peat swamp forests.
This is the water logger data we got from Katingan. We can see the fluctuation of the temperature and also the climate of the Katingan.
In addition, ICCC draws on VIIR's satellite data provided by NOAA and LAPAN, as well as Landsat 8 imagery, to detect peat fire hotspots and to generate computer models of greenhouse gas emissions. In May 2014, ICCC hosted a workshop exploring the data and tools necessary to accurately estimate greenhouse gas emissions from peat fires, drafting recommendations for the integration of this data into a national MRV system.
In the short term, the impact is real, like flooding, the impact to the agriculture and so on. So while we are finding a new directions from the low emissions, we need to respond to that reality.
The information collected from these research programs have many purposes. They include broadening and synergizing networks, promoting research and innovation, establishing the framework that will link scientific data to policy, and lastly, promoting actions that will help mitigate the impacts of climate change.
If all the policy is based on the science, so we hope we will have a better life.
Keberadaan ICCC itu cukup penting, khususnya pada isu climate change. Dipertahankan dan Indonesia harus membuktikan bahwasannya sebagai negara berkembang, kita bukan hanya berkomitmen tapi juga berkontribusi untuk melindungi iklim dunia dari kehancuran.
I think ICCC has to be the main push the main force.
The United States has been very proud to work with the ICCC for the last several years, and I think they're doing a wonderful job of providing science-based analysis to the government to help understand the climate change challenges, but also opportunities in front of Indonesia.
We all agree that the best way to do this is to work together. It affects everybody. It is not enough that we know everything about this, that we are smart people doing this, if not millions of people do the same thing.
Indonesia faces a challenge of historical proportions. How the country manages the balancing act of economic growth and reduced greenhouse gas emissions will have a long-term effect on the quality of life of future generations. ICCC is critical to ensuring that the country remains on track on its journey towards a greener, healthier, more sustainable future.